Alright guys, it's Miss Hernandez here. So today I'm going to be walking you through how to make your brain dump for your last science benchmark and your science EOG. So, again, if you get overwhelmed or I'm moving too fast for you, you can pause this video at any point, but in order to keep the video from being super long, I'm going to move at a pretty rapid pace. But again, you can pause the video at any point. So the first thing I want you to do is to fold your paper in half twice. One hot dog fold, one hamburger fold, one vertical fold, one horizontal fold. And once you've done that, I want you to trace over your folds. Just like so. Trace over your folds. Okay, so that you have 4 equal sections on the front and on the back. All right, so we're going to go through in chronological order, in the order in which we've covered these units this school year. So first we had heat transfer. You guys did the animal shelters to show what all you had learned about heat transfer. So remember, when you write heat transfer, before you move on to the next side, you need to write the heat transfer goes from hot to cold, from hot to cold. Heat transfer goes from hot to cold. We've got more to add, but we're going to come back to that here in just a moment. Next unit we covered after heat transfer was weather. So you'll go ahead and label that box weather. And before we move on from weather, I want you to draw your arrow from west to east, because remember that weather moves from west to east, and this is due to the jet stream and the prevailing westerlies. They both push our weather systems from west to east. Remember that winds are named by the direction in which they blow from. So they blow from the west to the east, the prevailing westerlies. And remember that the jet stream is that tunnel of air that divides the cold air mass in the north part of the jet stream from the warm air mass that runs south of the jet stream. So when the jet stream dips below us, when this tunnel of air moves below us, the temperatures are colder than usual. But when the jet stream rises above us, it puts us in that southern part, so our temperatures are warmer than usual. All right, we've got lots more to add to weather, but we're going to go ahead and move on to our next unit. We'll come back and we'll add our barometer, the most important weather instrument. But after we covered weather, we then covered ecosystems. And then after ecosystems unit, we had our living things, and human body unit. All right. Then on the back, we've got our last 2 units that we've covered together. And this could get a little messy, so I'm going to go ahead and get another sheet of paper, just so it's not bleeding through. I'm using this black marker so that it shows up good in the video. Okay. Alrighty. Perfect. There we go. Now, ready. The next unit we covered was matter, and remember, before we move on from matter, we want to add a couple things to this block. So matter cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. And remember, it can be changed in one of 2 ways. It can undergo a physical change, or it can undergo a chemical change. And we're going to come back and add more about those types of changes. But lastly, we're going to do force and motion. Okay? And we'll add all that when we get there. Now, if you want to go above and beyond and you want to add some notes down here about clouds specifically or the water cycle, you can come back and do that. And I'll finish up the video with that just to kind of show you a little bit of what you might want in there. But this one is a bonus. I do expect for you to have the other 6 sections. So matter, force and motion, living things, human body, ecosystems, weather, and heat transfer. All right. So let's pick back up where we left off with heat transfer. All right. So with heat transfer, we have 3 types of heat transfer. Those are conduction, conduction, which is when 2 solids are touching one another. So we might think of a pot on a stove. We also have radiation, which is heat being transferred through waves or waves. We think of the sun, we think of fire, we might even think of a microwave. And then convection. And that is when heat transfers in a current through gases and liquids, such as the air or water. So we have those there. And then the last thing that you guys need to have for heat transfer is what the job of an insulator. An insulator keeps the heat in its place. Oh, no apostrophe. Its place. So, for example, a coffee cup is made of ceramic. It's going to keep the heat in the coffee cup. However, a cooler would keep the heat out because it's going to keep the things inside cooler. So remember, an insulator does not allow heat to pass through. Does not allow heat to pass. It's a gate guard for heat. You cannot enter. All right, now moving on to weather. Most important weather tool is the barometer. We draw it like a big compass. It's a big circle. We're going to write barometer. And that tells us the weight of the air. So we're going to divide the barometer in half. And 29.5 is our point of change. So anything lower than 29.5 is going to be on the left side, lower left side. We have low pressure is light air, which means that water vapor can rise easily, collect those clouds, which is going to result in lousy weather. Yuck, yuck weather. All right, so we've got clouds, rain or snow, and thunderstorms. It's a bad cumulonimbus cloud, but you guys get the picture. You know. I know that your brain dumps are going to be so much more beautiful than mine. And then if we are higher than 29.5, we're going to be on the right side, the high side. So our H stands for high pressure, which is heavy air. Remember, the barometer tells us the weight of the air, so the air is heavy. So the water vapor molecules can't rise, and it causes us to have clear skies and happy weather. So we're going to draw us a happy, happy, happy sunshine there. Happy weather. All right. So we also want to remember that a cold front is the front of a cold air mass. Cold Kathy here. Cold Kathy comes through. Bada bing, bada boom. And so when cold front comes through, follows a lot of cold air. So the air is warm here. Cold front plows through, pushes through. Cold Kathy here. Rude cold Kathy pushing her way through. And she causes those clouds to bunch up and form big, huge cumulonimbus clouds. So remember, cold front is stormy weather, and then cool, clear temperatures follow. Okay, so we've got cold Cathy, storms, cumulonimbus clouds. And then we have our warm Wally front moving on through. Warm Wally's here. Behind the warm front is a nice warm pocket of air. And remember, that warm front moves so slow and calm. It creates those nice, long, drawn-out stratus clouds. And we remember that stratus clouds bring long periods of light, steady rain. So warm fronts bring light, steady rain, but the temperatures are warmer after that warm front passes through. And then lastly, the stationary fronts stay there. All right, so we also have our sea breeze, which happens in the day. And that is when the wind blows from the sea to the land. And then our land breeze happens at night. And that the water blows from the land to the sea. Now, the last thing we need to remember for weather is El Nino. Remember, it's named after the baby boy. Usually we see it around December, but it results in warmer, wetter weather. So kind of think hot, stinky. Okay? So the boy, it's hot and stinky, warmer, wetter weather, but could result in more snow as well because it is during the winter months. And then La Nina, the girl, that is cooler, drier weather. So we might see droughts during a La Nina year. Now we're going to talk about our ecosystems. Remember that ecosystems are when your abiotic and biotic factors are working together. So abiotic is not living, biotic is living. They're working together. There's two types of ecosystems. We have terrestrial, which are your land ecosystems, terrestrial, and your aquatic ecosystems. We're going to show those in two ways. So your aquatic ecosystems are one of two types. They're either freshwater or they're saltwater, and there's some that are both. So we've got freshwater over here, saltwater over there. And the ocean, of course, is saltwater. Our lakes, ponds, and streams are fresh. And then in the middle here, we have our estuaries. So that's where your salt and your freshwater mix. So remember, this middle part of the Venn diagram is both. Estuaries have both fresh and salt water. Now for our terrestrial ecosystems, we're going to look at a globe. Remember, we're going to kind of retrieve some of what we learned about climates. Further north we go to the poles, it gets colder. Further south we go to the equator. That's not really in the middle, but whatever. It gets warmer because remember, the direct sunlight from the sun causes this area to be warmer. This is indirect, so it's colder. So up top, the further north we go, we've got the tundra. And that is super cold and dry. And, And then underneath the tundra, we have the taiga, or the coniferous forest. So we're going to put some little pine trees there to help us to remember. It's a little bit warmer, but it's still pretty cold there. Then underneath the taiga, we have the deciduous forest, and that has the trees that the leaves change colors in the fall, so I'm going to add a little deciduous tree there. Then right around the equator on both sides, you're going to have a mixture of these ecosystems. You may have the desert, depending on how much rain the area gets. You may also see a rainforest. That would be really wet and warm. This one's really dry and hot. And then we have the grasslands. It's kind of in between. But all of these are located near the equator because they're warmer. All right, the last thing that we need to learn remember for ecosystems is the food chains and food webs. remember that the arrows go from the direction in which the energy flows. So remember, all energy begins with the sun. All right, so the sun drives the food chain. Without the sun, everything ceases to exist and it dies. But there's only one organism that can convert energy from the sun into energy that the rest of the ecosystem can use. And that is your handy-dandy producers, or your plants. So your producers, nice little tulip there, convert energy from the sun using a process called photosynthesis. And then those producers are eaten. They give their energy to consumers. So we're going to draw a cute little bunny rabbit there because they're easy to draw. Little bunny. Little bunny comes along, eats the plant, gets its energy from the sun. So that would be the primary consumer. He might be a herbivore, he might be an omnivore, or herbivores only eat plants, omnivores eat plants and other animals. And then along may come a fox and eat that cute little rabbit, gobble him right on up. Okay, so put our fox there. And the energy from the rabbit would be transferred to the fox. And then, of course, anytime any of these die, they would be decomposed by fungi, bacteria, or even earthworms. That's a mushroom, which is a type of fungi. So when any of these organisms die, they all will be decomposed. So the decomposer can come into the play anytime during the food chain. Now let's talk about living things and the human body. First of all, the structure of living things. Remember, the cell is the basic building block for all living things. So I'm going to draw a block around that because it's the basic building block. And a group of cells forms tissues, and a group of tissues form an organ, and then a group of organs form an organ system, which we're going to talk about when we talk about the human body there. So we're going to draw us a little line over there to the human body because we're going to list out all the organ systems that we've learned. All right. We also want to remember that all living things can perform 7 functions. Does it eat? Does it poop? Does it move, breathe, and grow? Can it make more of itself? If you poke it with a stick, does it mind? Something like that. So we're going to list all those down here. Does it eat? Does it poop? Can it get rid of its waste? Does it move? Does it breathe? Does it grow, breathe, and move? I cannot remember how that goes right now, guys. Does it grow? Does it react? And can it reproduce? Okay, so we've got 7 functions of all living things. Now, we want to remember that all living things can perform these 7 functions. Some things can do this with only one cell, and those are considered unicellular. But then some organisms are multicellular. They have many cells that work together, that work together to keep the organism alive. And our body is one of those examples. So we are going to talk about that here in just a moment. But we do want to remember that the unicellular organisms can perform all functions. Within one cell. They only need that one cell to live. So we've got our bacteria, paramecium, amoeba. Those are some examples of that there. Most things are multicellular. They need more than one cell to live. And an example of a multicellular organism is us, our human body. And we have our nervous system, which sends electrical signals and it is made up of our brain, spinal cord, and nerves. All right. Another system within our human body is the digestive system. The digestive system is responsible for breaking down food into nutrients. Break down food into nutrients. So anytime you see nutrients, you may think of the digestive system. And the digestive system consists of our mouth, the esophagus, our stomach, and intestines. I'm not going to ask you guys to write esophagus, but I'm sure if you see that, you'll remember that it goes with the digestive system. Now, your circulatory system works very closely with your digestive system. Circulatory. Okay, so your circulatory system is the transport system for the body. And that helps to move oxygen and nutrients through your body. So transport system for oxygen and nutrients. All right, so your circulatory system, and that consists of your heart, your blood, and of course your veins. All right. Oh, gracious, we still got two more I got to fit in here. All right, so our respiratory system, it also goes along with the circulatory system. Respiratory system, because we've got oxygen there, nutrients, digestive, respiratory has oxygen. Respiratory is responsible for that body function of breathing. So breathing, oxygen, which would consist of your nose, your lungs, your mouth. We breathe out of our mouth sometimes. And our last two systems would be skeletal. And remember, skeletal system provides structure and support for our bodies. And it makes red blood cells. And then muscular is responsible for movement. Muscles move us. Now, skeletal, let's remember too that your skeletal and your circulatory system are connected because your circulatory system uses the blood to transport those items, and your skeletal system makes your blood or your red blood cells. Now we're moving on to the back, our last two units. Thank you guys so much for hanging in there with me. We have two types of changes. Matter cannot be created or destroyed, only changed. It can be changed physically, which can be or can usually be reversed. Can usually be reversed. All right. It's when we may change from a solid to a liquid or liquid to a gas. Sometimes solid to a gas if temperatures are really extreme. Some examples of that might be cutting, melting, boiling, folding, etc. Or when we have solutions or mixtures. Those are also examples of physical changes. So remember, mixtures can be easily separated. Can be separated easily. And solutions cannot be separated easily. Okay? Chemical changes can't be reversed. They can't be reversed because a new substance is made. For example, when I burn the paper, we created ash, no longer paper. So some examples of chemical changes. I do want you guys to list these out if you can remember them. Rust, burning something, cooking something. Anytime you see gas bubbles produced. Released or if there is a color or odor change. And a color change not consisting of something being evenly distributed in the solution, like your blue Kool-Aid making your liquid blue. That's just because the Kool-Aid is evenly distributed. But a color or odor change, for example, when you boil eggs, the egg goes from no smell to a smell of sulfur or a stinky poot or something like that. All right, force in motion. Force is a push or a pull. All right, we know that gravity pulls two objects together, and we know that forces can be balanced or unbalanced. So an example of a balanced force would be two friends pulling on a rope with the same amount of force. That would be balanced. There would be no motion there. Woo! No motion. Unbalanced force would be three friends ganging up on one friend and pulling the rope, causing the friend with less force to be moved in the direction of more force. So we have motion in the direction of greater force. Now, if by drawing this and just drawing the arrow to where there are more people, you know that the motion is in the direction of greater force, you don't have to write all of that. Last but not least, if you want to go above and beyond, remember this is bonus, you can write your clouds diagram. We'll start down at the bottom here with our stratus clouds. And remember, we also have our cumulonimbus clouds, which are low level, but they stack high into the atmosphere. Marge Simpson's clouds, as Cullen likes to call them. So we got our cumulonimbus clouds, bring some thunderstorms, bada bing, bada boom. We see them when cold Kathy comes through. Remember, stratus clouds bring light, steady rain, or just overcast skies. Our cumulus clouds are happy clouds. And then our cirrus clouds are way high level clouds high up in the atmosphere. And they tell us that the weather is fine now, but it could change soon. So we have our cirrus clouds up high. Then last but not least, if you wanted to add, we've got our body of water here. Water may rise through evaporation. Water vapor can also enter the atmosphere through plants in transpiration. As the water rises high into the atmosphere, it begins to cool and form clouds in the process called condensation. And as those clouds get too full to hold any more water, they begin to spill out or precipitate in either rain, sleet, hail, or snow. Precipitation. All right, guys, I think that's it. I wish you the best of luck on your benchmark. Please use your brain dump in all the ways. If you wish to do a second copy for extra credit, I encourage you to do so. I'll be glad to reward you when you get back. Use this to help you answer the questions on the Google form that follows. So please use your brain dump to help you answer the questions on your Google form. All right, guys. Have a great day. Can't wait to see you tomorrow for your last benchmark.